been watching what's going on with the so-called TikTok ban or restrict act in the USA? Are you a TikTok creator, or are you someone who maybe has all your eggs in the Meta basket as far as your social media? Are you showing up mostly on Facebook and Instagram? At the moment, there are major developments happening, and now there's an opportunity to be an early adopter for some new things that are happening right now. So if you want to know what those opportunities are, this is for you.
Hey, my name is Olivia D'Souza. I'm dedicated to helping multi-passionate entrepreneurs turn their dreams into reality by building a career and a life they love and making a positive impact in the world. I'm a podcast and social media manager, a singer-songwriter, a kids music creator, a fadishta, a wife and a mum. I'm the secret weapon behind many 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs, helping them shine a light and call in the people they are here to serve. And now I'm here to help you. This podcast is here to help you learn and be inspired. You'll learn about podcasting, lead generation, business, and all about the real life stories of people behind the businesses just like you. Think of it as a place to hang out with your like-minded business bestie who gets what it's like. So grab a cuppa and hit subscribe so we can hang out again. This is Magnetic Pod, the podcast.
I am here and I'm ready to be brave. Cannot miss me, I'll stand on every stage. I'm available for my destiny to reach my people.
Before we get into it, I do want to warn you that I do get fired up at one point and go off on a tangent about internet safety, and in particular in relation to protecting our children. So I do realise it's not the same thing as what's been spoken about in regards to TikTok. I think they're talking more on a national scale, perhaps, of national security. But if we're going to be talking about cyber safety, this is the thing that gets me fired up. So I've taken the opportunity to get on my little soapbox just for a moment. But if that's something you'd be concerned about your kids hearing, then pop on your headphones. I think it's an important thing personally to talk about with our kids, but I leave that to you, if you're a parent, to do that in your voice, in your words, in the way that you feel is appropriate, if that's what you choose to do. But after that, stay with me, because I do get to talking about what I think are huge opportunities to be early adopters of in the changing landscape in social media. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so it's been really interesting as someone who's a social media creator who supports businesses to be able to show up online with as little effort as possible on their behalf. So I'm watching with great interest what's happening, and there's been huge changes with Instagram. I've been watching Instagram gurus who are there to represent how fantastic Instagram is and all the opportunities there, and themselves seem to find it hard to have to show up and say, oh my goodness, everyone, now it's this, now it's that, now this is the new way it is, oh, now I have to flip-flop and do that. For example, I really love following Brock Johnson. And he's still speaking positively about Instagram, but I think sometimes personally it looks to me like he can be a bit frustrated himself with how things have changed and how the goalposts keep moving. So it's pretty clear that over the last few years that TikTok has made a major difference to all the social media platforms. It's changed the face of how social media is done, as I've heard Gary Vee explain it. In the past, social media was more social. It was about seeing what your friends and the people that you know and choose to connect with and what they're doing and what they're sharing. And then TikTok came along and they created this algorithm and this For You page which showed people things that they're interested in based on what they're interested in and not based on whether it's someone they follow or not. And it just blew up. And also what's happened is that a lot of people have been successful there who may have had more difficulty on other platforms where it's supposed to be more curated, where everything's supposed to be pretty. On YouTube, in the long form content is basically the stuff that happens that does the best is quite a lot of effort to make for most people, for most genres. You have to highly edit it, have a nice backdrop, have your lighting all good, have editing so that it stays interesting to look at, and all of these sort of things. And TikTok removed the barriers by making it a lot simpler. There are some edited videos on there, but in general, it's not a requirement so much. And basically, everyone's been scrambling ever since to keep up with them. So it's been really interesting to watch what's going on in the US. And for what it's worth, I'm skeptical that it is very much to do with anyone's safety or national security. It's probably the security of the people in power that they're concerned about. I actually do have very, very real concerns about internet in general and social media. I support people in social media such as Caroline Ellen from Safer Stronger Kids and Jen Hoey from Not My Kid, who genuinely are out there screaming from the top of their lungs, and I'm helping them to do that, to let people know about the dangers on the internet and social media and gaming and everywhere. And it's the Wild West out there and there are not protections in place. So I have real concerns about a lot of things that are on social media. But what I see happening with TikTok and the whole TikTok ban is nothing to do with anything to do with safety as far as I can see. I wish that it was about real safety. When it comes to safety online, this is something that I really feel strongly about and that I wish people knew about, and that I think a lot of parents, sadly, who love their kids, who do everything for the kids, who do their best, are not aware of the real dangers that there are on the internet and in social media and in gaming. There's no list of safe games and dangerous games because predators, for example, who groom kids online, go wherever the kids are. So they'll be on all the games. There are call centres where they will get scripts and they will research areas, and they'll be able to get in touch with kids and say, hey, I know this kid and this kid and this kid, and I'm a friend too, and I'm local in the area, and I hang out at this club. And they'll have all the specific things to say to make themselves seem like a genuine friend, and they make friends and they groom kids online, and there's a little bit of flirting, and the next thing they're sharing photos online, and then they're being scared into keep giving me stuff or give me money, or these things are actually happening. Real scary things are happening online that I want to shout from the rooftops that I wish the governments would do something about. And so, oh my God, I am so on board with restricting things online and putting safeguards in place. Unfortunately, this whole TikTok thing, I don't think has got anything to do with any of the things that I personally think are really actually important. So that's me having my vent. But I will get to what I think the opportunities are. Also, I have tried to research. I'm not a journalist, so I'm sure there'll be people who disagree with me, and I think that we all look at things and we don't know what's biased in what direction, and we always have to be a bit sceptical about anything we're reading online. But I have done a bit of research and I have tried to figure out what is really happening. In 2020, Trump tried to ban TikTok back then and was demanding that they sell to the US. And now recently Biden also is wanting them to sell to the US. I was Googling different pages to try and get clear on, is he telling them to sell to the US specifically or just to sell? Because most articles were saying to sell. And I thought, it's like it's just assumed it's to the US. Like they think that they're the only country. And I eventually found an article where it specifies that they want the company that owns TikTok to sell the US arm of their platform they want to sell the US arm, so presumably to US then, even though it doesn't actually say that on the articles I looked for. It's just assumed. Obviously it's to the US they want it. A lot of things that I've been watching have been saying that allegedly that Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, has been lobbying and funding the government for quite some time around this. I can't verify, I don't know for sure, but that's what's out there. So anyway, so that's all very interesting. So what about the opportunities and what will happen? So I follow people online that I have seen that put so much effort into building their community on TikTok, who will post 4, 7 or something videos every single day for a certain amount of time to do what they need to do to grow. That is not easy to do, and they've put in years of work to build up a platform that lets people know what they have to offer in the world. They've built their businesses just so they can live their life and make a bit of money, and just to think that potentially will be wiped away. Oh, I really feel for those people. In the US this year, I googled to check what the latest numbers are on school shootings. There have been 17 school shootings this year, and we are 13 weeks in at the time of recording this, and nothing ever happens. Nothing changes. Yet there's bipartisan support on this thing. Just watching what unfolds these days, I just find it hard to believe that this is really based on caring about the people. And in fact, another thing that I have been finding is the actual Restrict Act that they are trying to push through, from everything that I've seen online, is not just about TikTok. It actually gives the government the right to just look at anything online without asking permission. And if someone tries to get around, like some people who are, good people, but might be doing something a little sneaky, like getting a VPN so that they can still maybe look at TikTok, or maybe people get a VPN, they want to be able to see something on, I don't know, Netflix or whatever that's not available in their country. Apparently now if people do that, if this bill passes, they can land in jail or face big fines. So it's pretty serious. So that's worth investigating, and do your own research, of course, and look at the bill for yourself. I'm not a lawyer, but it just looks quite concerning. So it'll be interesting to see whether this goes through. I suspect it will, but I hope it doesn't. Or if they sell off a portion of it to the USA, does that mean, or whatever happens from the outcome of all these hearings, will that mean that TikTok will change and not be as powerful as it has been in the way it puts information out there and lets us see things? I've seen people say if you go and Google a word like Iran or France, not Google, but put it into Instagram versus putting it into TikTok, you'll see very different things. You'll see on Instagram it's pretty pictures and curated feeds, and then you put it into TikTok and you'll see the on-the-ground news of what's happening and the protests and various things like that. So meanwhile, if you look over on what's happening on Facebook, Instagram in particular has been swapping, changing the goalposts, and 1 minute they were offering to pay creators, then they scrapped that, and now creators have to pay them if they want to be verified. And they started out by saying to have their posts given a little push, so to speak, but then they took that element away. But I suspect that it actually is making a difference. So with all of these changes, it's making me think that it is now time to make sure that you don't have all your eggs in one basket. It is a reminder to build your email list. So to regularly offer something of value for free so that people will sign up for it and give you their email address so that you can stay in touch, because you get to keep your email list, but you don't own anything else. It is also a reminder that podcasts are really valuable because you get to keep them. So make sure you always keep a backup, of course, in case any distributor falls over or anything like that, but you get to keep your podcast. So that's another thing. So here's where I think the opportunities are right now. Obviously podcasts with video in particular. And don't worry, I'm not just going to say podcasts because I do podcasts. But seriously, if you do podcasts, but particularly right now with video, that gives you so many options. Right now, YouTube is cranking up their fire, I guess you could say, under boosting podcasts on their platform. So I have been not in a huge hurry until now to put my podcast on YouTube because there's two approaches to do it. Still is. There's the SEO approach or the all-in approach, and I wanted to go all in because the SEO approach would be like if you set up something like Repurpose.io, and if that's all you've got the bandwidth to do that. It's still worthwhile from an SEO point of view, and who knows, the way things are going with them pushing podcasts, it might do better than previously. But the way that really goes well, that if you watch the platform, the podcasts that appear on their podcast page, the ones that come up on my page, the ones that I see, the ones they give examples of for best practice, are visually really, really good too. They are made for video. So the opportunity right now is to do podcasts for YouTube. Also, whether you're ready or not to do the best video quality you can or not, you can still do YouTube Shorts. So the opportunity is do a podcast, own that, use that to feed everything else, which is always what I've been on about anyway, but get it on all the platforms. I'd put it on TikTok, but we don't know what's going to happen with TikTok. Put it on YouTube in Shorts, put it on a separate playlist to the podcast. The podcast, I have a separate episode that is going to be published very, very soon. It's all about the latest things on YouTube. So check that out as well. But you'll have a separate playlist for podcasts and it's being pushed. So be an early adopter for video podcasts on YouTube. Take advantage of that and have your podcast. And the other place to put it, the other new opportunity that I see, that I've seen a little bit of talk about that's new, is Clapper. Have you heard of Clapper? It's very new. I've only really recently heard of it. And I see that as being where a lot of people will go. And I think it's worth having a red hot go and putting things over there. And it's really interesting if you go and have a look. They even tell you as you just go there for the first time, they guide you and give you information of what they want. And it looks really interesting. So far, the For You page for me isn't really impressing me that much, to be honest. I think I might need to train it, but I needed to train the TikTok one too. I used to get things coming up that I'm like, I want to see this. And I made a real effort to comment and like and follow and do all the things on the things that I was, and search out even the topics that I really wanted to see. Someone that I follow is Kokomoko. I found her on TikTok and she's got a podcast too. So you could go check out her podcast where she talks about this TikTok ban stuff too, and that's interesting. But one thing she says, which I already know to be true, is if you are an early adopter of something, jump in and you have the best chance to succeed. Be willing to do it wrong. I say it in air quotes. Be willing to have a go and be an early adopter, and you have the ability to ride that wave. So, I mean, this is something that I've not heard just from Kokomoko. I keep having to check her name. This is something I haven't just heard from Kokomoko. This is something I've heard also from Shannon, who runs Bounce Patrol, who's the #1 YouTuber in Australia, and that I learned from Tina and Mark Harris, that I also learn a lot about YouTube from. If you are an early adopter of the trends, then the algorithm favours you and pushes you. So that is why right now I think video podcasts, put them on YouTube, chop them up, stick them on Clapper, put them on TikTok, what the heck, just push them out there. I say what the heck because I don't know what's happening with TikTok right now. And you can still keep putting them on the other places, Meta and so forth. But I would spread your eggs. I could have said that wrong. That would have sounded wrong. So if you want help with that, this is what I do, right? I know heaps about what's going on in the space and what's happening on YouTube and all these new things, and I repurpose. That is what I do. And I know what looks good and will give you the best chance. So if you want help with that, if you want some guidance to set you up so that you can start jumping on these things, then I am seeing this as a huge opportunity. So I'm going to get together some packages, but just reach out and let's work something out. Send me a DM on Instagram, Livy Music Media. And also, if you want to know what you need to get started, then head to my freebies page, livymusicmedia.com/freebies. I'll put a link in the notes so that you can get the equipment you need. So if you have any questions, what do you think about all this drama that's happening? I would love to hear from you, love to get your thoughts, okay? And remember, hit subscribe. I want to see you next time, and stay in touch. Bye.
Miss me, I'll stand on every stage. I'm available for my destiny to reach my people. Gonna be a star, so if you pass on me.
Hello, it's Livy here. Have you ever wondered about what the key elements are that make a podcast truly stand out? Or maybe you're thinking about starting your own special podcast and feel a bit overwhelmed and don't know where to start? Well, I have something for you. Introducing the Ultimate Podcast Checklist. Da, 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 da. It's a step-by-step guide that covers everything from the initial brainstorming to advanced growth strategies. It's the perfect companion for both new and seasoned podcasters. And the best part, it's absolutely free. Da, 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 da. To grab your copy, simply head to the show notes of this episode and you will find a direct link there, and then away you go. Remember, every podcast started with that initial spark and the right resource, so let the Ultimate Podcasting Checklist be yours.